So this one right here took me for a doozy. Castlevania Nocturne, The Belmont Legacy is a direct sequel to Netflix's hit Castlevania. We stumble into many generations later of a great distant relative of the legendary Trevor Belmont. As we saw in the video game adaptation on Netflix, they knocked this one out of the park. Trevor, a little backstory. Trevor's a good-looking cheeky male who steals the show. Another limbo show that I classify as anime, but people like to disagree because it's a video game or it was an adaptation or because it isn't written in Tokyo, it doesn't classify as an anime. I think haters gonna hate. So let's get into it. We're misled that this man Ritcher is gonna be Ritcher. He's gonna be a quick-witted, cheeky version of the legend we've come to learn. This man Trevor always had something slick to say, and again, he was very quick-witted. He didn't need anyone but enjoyed the company of the ladies and even some of his evil companions. Well, when we stumble through, hopefully, this one and only season of Nocturne, we don't get any of that. Again, it is very watered down. It's several generations separated. It's very saturated, but this man Ritcher just isn't it. So in Genesis, we get to meet Ritcher's mother, Julia, who is also a vampire / undead hunter, and she has some swag about her. But as in most sequels, they ruin it and kill her off damn near immediately. Of course that's going to happen, right? And in her death, Ritcher, he was a child, he was in awe and disarray, as we all would be. The notable vampire who does kill Julia's name is Orolox. Now, as a side tangent, this vampire is super cool. He has this crazy mystique about him. He has some crazy powers. He's giving off some Dave Chappelle Prince vibes in his attire, but it's cool. So we got Orolox and we got Julia. They're fighting. It's an all-out war. And just like most wars, we finally get the demise of what we think is the main character in Julia. It starts out with a bang, but honestly, the next few episodes just fall off. Like, if you didn't play the video game or you didn't watch Castlevania and go directly to Nocturne, the timelines are confusing. Random characters come and go. There's a side story with some love going on. It's a lot. So we're diving into episode 3, 4, and 5. And even though there is some very good animation that we came to expect from Netflix, it just doesn't do it, even for an adaptation. We come across another side character who is the abbot. Essentially, he's the leader of this church and he knows about the vampires. He's conniving and he's looked at as the man who's going to save the town. He is aware of the vampires, but the villagers aren't. Little do they know, he's working with the vampires and secretly he's making a vampire army. He's your typical shady person, okay? And within the first few minutes of being your typical shady person, you just know that you can't trust him. At least you shouldn't. But little do we know how evil and bad he truly is. This is a slow burn, all right? This is something you have to watch when you have nothing to do. But they do somehow turn it around. There's this really cool character, and her name is Dralta. Again, she's giving some Prince vibes. Purple rain, you feel me? She's essentially Dracula, at least we think so, and she ends up being one of the main antagonists. She's trying to get linked up with Orolox and start a revolution to essentially make the vampires into daywalkers. The plot behind their link up is to feed on humans, walk amongst us in the daylight, and enjoy eternity as they once did. It was really cool. They took a 28 days later approach. Blade, The Walking Dead, completely ignore the video game timeline that was set out, or the spin-off, or the sequel, or whatever you want to put it in. In this part of Castlevania, they just go away from the script, and I really do enjoy it. So, at this point, it's starting to turn on me. I'm not going to lie. After 5 episodes, I was kind of being like, maybe this isn't for me. But, let's get back to the main character, Ritcher. So, this baby boy's a simp. Nothing cool, no cool taglines, or nothing like that. He does have some very good fighting scenes and some pretty cool moves. He has the legendary Belmont whip, but realistically, it's mediocre at best. We don't necessarily get his age, but best off his verbiage and his maturity and his actions, I'm guessing between 18 and 22. He has girls hitting on him left and right, and unlike his legendary name, unlike the Belmont legacy, he does nothing with it. He does the opposite. He whines. He's awkward. And honestly, he's soft. At one point, he sees his arch nemesis, the man who killed his mother, Orolox, who put smoke on her, killed her right in front of him, years and years and years later. The scene's building up. There's momentum. It's looking really cool. Perfect, tight animation. And Ritcher runs away. So the legendary Belmont, aka the strongest Belmont, one of the strongest Belmonts, he runs off like a coward. Pathetic. But, and I do say but, with only 8 episodes, I don't know what happened here. I don't know if they swapped writers. I don't know if they seeing that it wasn't going in the right direction. I don't know what happened, but episode 6 through 8 is, oh my gosh. They did it. These boys at Netflix did it. Just like true anime fashion. They come out of left field just when you're about to give up on it. And they do it big. These are 3 back-to-back climatic episodes, and it saves the show. They earned their season 2 with these last 3 episodes. And this is the reason right here that I love anime. I was truly one bad scene away, like I said, from this legendary video game and Netflix adaptation of getting written off. In episode 6, we meet the Countress, and man, she is pure evil. OP, great antagonist. I'm still pulling for Dralta, as I said earlier, as being the main antagonist, but I still think that the Countress was a perfect rekindling to this fallen series. I was going to dog it. I'm not going to lie. But they save it, and that's all that matters. So yeah, now we got 2 badass girls in here running shit. We got Dralta and the Countress. And even though the Countress is giving off some low-key Bloody Mary vibes, just Google it, all right? Dralta has that 5-star general mystique about her. Regardless, these 2 are better than Shaq and Kobe. So, let's go back to Cuckles McGee, a.k.a. Ritcher Boy. After being sad and depressed, he's running away from all these fights. He stumbles into his long-lost grandfather, Jack, who prior to this episode claims to be the strongest Belmont. Little do we know, we're about to see what real strength looks like. And just like we see in the video game, we see the magic and strength of Richter. He shows that he is a true Belmont, and he's Hemington. He is Hemington. And I don't know. Maybe it's him getting his ass whooped. Maybe he finally decides to grow up. Maybe it's after seeing his mom die and now his grandpa's all tied up. The flashbacks are overwhelming and the OP protagonist, aka Mr. Cool Guy and Ritcher Belmont, finally shows up. And let me tell you, he's Mr. Cool Man. He's pulling out his whip. It's turning icy. It's turning fiery. He's showing his magic. Left and right and wrong. They finally start to do this man justice, and it is great. Finally. And I don't know. Maybe it's him getting his ass whooped. Maybe he finally decides to grow up. Maybe it's after seeing his mom die and now his grandpa's all tied up. The flashbacks are overwhelming and the OP protagonist, aka Mr. Cool Guy and Ritcher Belmont, finally shows up. And let me tell you, he's Mr. Cool Man. He's pulling out his whip. It's turning icy. It's turning fiery. He's showing his magic. Left and right and wrong. They finally start to do this man justice, and it is great. Finally. Again, in my opinion, the thing with these new gen animes or these animated adaptations, they try to do too much of a build-up. Any other time, a build-up would be great. Like if you're going from Hell's Paradise, which is a new anime, that is perfectly fine. If you're doing Bungo Stray Dogs, another new anime, that is fine. But if you're doing a sequel, kind of like how Castlevania Nocturne is to the original Castlevania, you have to keep the going, all right? That's the only way. You can't do a build-up. You have to keep the action continuously going. If they would have done this from the beginning, I wouldn't have harmed them so bad in the first half. But they make good do, and they show us, starting in episode 6, how good of a show this can be. So this is the Ritcher that we want. The Bubs are getting all back together. He's with the squad, and they're all ready to go save Mr. Phantom of the Opera, a.k.a. Eduardo. Little do we know that the abbot truly made a deal with the devil using God's name as a front, and this show gets dark quick. Episodes 7 and 8 come to a very great peak point. We get the Countress, Ezorabet, in her Frieza gold status. This whole time we find out that this whole entire time, we find out that even though my main man Richard has finally ascended, the Countress has that ultra instinct about her. The gang comes all the way back from the dungeon where they've been getting handled left and right. And her queenly goddess aura is standing there. The Countress is the embodiment of power. She pretty much just picked up the overshield and stacked 3 plates, and nobody can get up to her. They call her Her Holiness. The abbot speaks about it, and he's like, please let me do something to sacrifice somebody that I love to save this town.